Strat-O-Matic Excel Carryover League. Brought to you by the Shrimp Troll.
(1973 to 1976). Welcome back, baseball fans, to 1973-76 Carryover League. We got a big series today in the American League Midwest between the Chicago White Sox and the Kansas City Royals. These two teams were co-favorites to compete for the division title based on history and roster talent combination. But it's been a struggle, and the surprising Brewers and Twins are all hanging together. All four teams are within each other, but the Royals have the worst draw thus far. They were in last place to start the series. White Sox were in third, a couple games under 500. And then we have a situation where, let's start with the White Sox. The White Sox have had a underachievement look about them all year as a ALCS participant a year ago. Retooled their team again, really have a deep roster. However, I must state that even though they have a deep roster, the stars, Wilbur Wood, Dick Allen, have kind of had down years. They went out and got Jim Cott. He's been okay at best. Cott as a lefty is not doing what, say, Mike Cuellar would do, or what Kenny Holtzman would do, or John Matlack for the Mets would do for their teams, backing up the ace. So the White Sox made a change, or a commitment, you could say, and that is they decided it's time to write the lineup in pen or magic marker. They've decided that this is who we are. This is the lineup. One versus lefties, one versus righties, and that's how our season will go. If it fails, if Wilbur Wood, our ace, gets knocked around, then we can watch the playoffs on TV. And that's just how they're going to roll this thing through. Let's see what's happened. Game one. In Chicago, Marty Patton for the Royals against Wilbur Wood. For your White Sox, we have Dick Allen batting third, Melton's batting fourth, Henderson's batting fifth, Lamar Johnson batting sixth, and Buddy Bradford's batting seventh. Until next year. Stinson, on-base machine, leads off. Orta bats second, Muser bats eighth, Bucky Dent bats ninth, with the platoon partners in place. So, it's working well. Game on. It's a Lamar Johnson two-run homer. The Royals get a couple of runs in the fourth on a sac fly and a single, 2-2. But then Dick Allen hits a solo shot. You get double, single, single, and a sac fly, and the White Sox have a 5-2 lead. They get a double by Lamar Johnson, now batting sixth. Again, he's a .320 hitter, but they said, let's just put him sixth. He's a rookie. We got plenty of other guys who can, work the count. Let the rookie just bat sixth and get him out of there. Get him out of left field as soon as possible. So he bats sixth. He's 3 for 3. Then they take him out for defense. White Sox win 7-4. Wilbur Wood 7 2/3, 13 hits. That's a lot. Like I said, he's not the shining star he once was. Gossage gets the final 4 outs for a save. Game 2 in Comiskey Park. Final score 3-1 White Sox. It's Jerry Bell, the number 4 starter, a guy who's had not great results. He gets through 6 innings with just 3 hits and a run allowed against the anemic Kansas City offense, which is a mess. They're just a complete mess. And Paul Spludorf, who's having a rough year, is decent, but not much beyond that. first inning, White Sox, a single, a hit-and-run single by Glenn Beckert, a double play by Dick Allen, but it scores a run without an RBI. Sixth inning, an RBI triple by Ken Henderson, RBI single by Lamar Johnson. 3-1 victory, another save by Rich Gossage. Up 2-0, we go to Kansas City for a Game 3. Wilbur Wood is coming back on 2 days rest against Dennis Leonard. In the fountains of Kansas City, same lineup as Game 1. Bob Stinson single, Orta single, Dick Allen RBI single, Bill Melton RBI double, and then Ken Henderson 3-run dinger. 5 batters, 5 runs with Wilbur Wood on the mound. And Kansas City is going for the oxygen. Their season, they are on. It looks pretty terminal for the Royals. However, they get an RBI single in the bottom of the first, make it 5-1. Another one to make it 5-2. And again, 2 runs in the first 2 innings off Wilbur Wood. Got to hang in there, Wilbur. White Sox decide you got to leave Wilbur Wood in this game until he qualifies for a loss, because that's our guy. With that, he settles down, and he throws 5 scoreless innings. Stan Bonson pitches the 8th. Mike Garman pitches the 9th. White Sox win 6-2. Finally, for the first time since 2024, the White Sox look like a contender, a dominant contender. They played really well in the previous series against the Twins. They played a bunch of first-place teams to start their season, and they're dominating the Royals right now. And the Royals are absolutely awful, is all I can say. Underachieving, overrated, terrible baseball team as we speak. Let's take a look at the overall standings before we get to Game 4. Here it is, the American League Midwest. The Twins are up there, 15-11. They won a best-of-7 over the White Sox because they had home field advantage, won 4-3. White Sox are in striking distance, a game and a half back, as are the Brewers. Brewers and Twins still have to play each other. The Royals, I believe, have just played their season out. They have just played themselves somehow out of the American League, where no one is really taking control of the American League, yet the Royals have seemed to take control over the bottom. I'm looking at the bottom of the American League. They're the Angels. Okay? This division is all 500 and above. And here you got the Yankees and Blue Jays a game under. Folks, the Kansas City Royals, a playoff team in 76 and beyond, is the worst team in the American League. And this is not a team without talent. This is a very talented baseball team who is stinking up the joint this year. We have Patek and Rojas and Brett and Mayberry and Amos Otis and Al Cowens and Frank White, Marty Patton, Splittorff, Gura, Leonard, Doug Bird. I mean, most of the talent, not all of it, big chunk of it though, of those playoff teams is playing lousy baseball. Does it continue? Does it change? We're going to determine that today in a Game 4 from the fountains of Kansas City. Your pitching matchups today. His first start in this series for the White Sox is Bart Johnson. His best year of his career is 1974. 10-game winner, 2.73 ERA, 122 innings, dominates righties, decent against lefties. And folks, Kansas City only has 4 lefties. Brett, Mayberry, Duke Sims, Jim Dwyer. So this bodes well for Bart Johnson. And if he runs into trouble, Rich Gossage could go 4 innings and a potential sweep if the White Sox were to get a lead. Now, for your Kansas City Royals making his first start, 1976 version of Larry Gura. He was just a relief starter for the Royals, but he's really good with a 2.29 ERA in those 63 innings. In about a year from now, he'll be a regular in the rotation and throw 200 or more innings. He's not quite there yet, which is why he's pitching in Game 4, but he's very good. Pretty balanced matchup of pitchers, I'd prefer Bart Johnson in this one. And I prefer the White Sox going for the sweep in this one, really, folks. So let's see what happens. From the fountains, leading off for the White Sox, Brian Downing. 3-2, first card. Let's take a look. Brian Downing, first card we see, 1975. He hits .240, but he's got 76 walks and 420 at-bats. Has a -1 arm. I believe he suffered an injury, maybe a collision at home plate, and he was never a great thrower of the ball after that, so they moved him into the outfield when he was with the California Angels later in his career. 3-2, gone. 1-0 White Sox, and we can actually say the Royals are 27 outs away from being swept. All right, batting second, Glenn Beckert. 47, single 1 of 6. Can't get it. Dick Allen will bat third the rest of the year. 3-6, single 1 of 17, gets it. Bill Melton's batting cleanup the rest of the year. 37 is a walk. And now you got Ken Henderson. 34 is a double play. And that helps the Royals out. Big time. So no onslaught, just a run. Bottom of the first. Patek has gone to the bench. Frank White is on the bench. Al Callen's on the bench. They've been stinking up all year. You've got to try something else to survive the season. So Cookie Rojas will now lead off. 5-9 flies to right. Brett's batting second. Center X. Center field, Ken Henderson. 2-6. But it'll be a single. C. Steele, but a -1 arm catcher. Lou Piniella now batting third. 47 is a K, and with 2 outs, John Mayberry. 57 is a K. Top of 2, Lamar Johnson. 1-8 is a base hit. Buddy Bradford, 33. Uh-oh, another double play. Bob Coluccio, 58, flies left. Bottom of the second, Amos Otis, 32, pops to short. Duke Sims, 69, flies left. Fran Healy, 2-3, grounds to short. Into the third, Bucky Dent, 1-6, flies to center. Back up top to Brian Downing. 1-9's a walk. B. Steeler. Oh, Beckert gets the start against lefties versus Orta. And actually it works out for the White Sox because Brian Downing is a B. Steeler. You have to hold him at first. Pretty quick catcher. And so you get to hit and run with Beckert. Hit and run moves the runner up. Runner at second for Dick Allen. 3-6, single 1 of 17 gets it, but the runner has to hold at third. Throw in the corners for Bill Melton. 2-11 grounds the third. White Sox waste an opportunity there. Bottom of the third inning, Jim Washer Dwyer. 2-7's a K. Jack Heidemann, 2-6 a single. Cookie Rojas, 2-3, fielder's choice. And George Brett, 3-10, flies to right field. We go to the fourth. Ken Henderson, 2-8 strikes out. Lamar Johnson, 48, is a walk. Buddy Bradford, 1-6 is triple, 1-8, and he catches the 8. That's a big hit. Hits the artificial turf and goes to the wall. Triple 1-8, single the rest, so the run does score. And if you're the Royals down 2, you got to bring the infield up for Bob Coluccio. 1-9 grounds to short, the runner holds at third. And with 2 out, it's Bucky Dent. 4-4 Bucky Dent, homer 1 of 17. It's not a home run, he doesn't have power. But it's a single, and it's 3-0 White Sox. Back up top to Brian Downing. 35 is a base hit into right field. You're not going to make the final out at third. First and second for Glenn Beckert. 37, let's take a look at a card. Glenn Beckert. So, if you're wondering, yeah, the White Sox and the Cubs. Cubs just decided to go a new direction. They had too many other Cubs they wanted to keep in the offseason. And Glenn Beckert was like the 5th Beatle on the Cubs. So they put him on waivers, thinking they might be able to get him off of waivers. But the Southsiders said, we could use defense for George Orta. And Beckert was like, heck, I don't have to sell my house. So I'll just I'll just go to the south side. His last good year where he can field as a 3 at second base, 73, a 255 average. He's had some big hits this year. 37 is single ... and with 2 outs, that's a big run. It is now 4-zip. There are runners in the corners for Dick Allen. 2-8 is a ground ball to short. 4-0, and now you can hear the buzz in the bullpen. This could be a Gossage game where you just get him in there and finish this thing and, just put the Royals out of their misery. But let's get into the bottom of the 4th and see if the Royals have any life in them. Lou Piniella. 45 all. Bart Johnson is double 1 to 10. It's a 2-base hit. John Mayberry. 312 is a walk. Here come the Royals. First and second, no one out. Amos Otis. 68, lines are short. Duke Sims, 1-5. Let's take a look at Duke Sims' card. Duke Sims, we've had some great cards for him as a Cleveland Indian, a Tiger, a Dodger, guy who could catch and play right field. Actually had a good throwing arm in the outfield, not as a signal caller, however. 73, his numbers are down, but he always had the ability to hit home runs and draw walks. Hits 245, 9 homers and 261 at-bats. And 1-5 is gone, and we got a ball game. Kansas City is up for the fight. It's 4-3. Fran Healy, 2-5, grounds short. And with 2 outs, Jim Washer Dwyer, 1-6 is a base hit. Jack Heidemann, 57 strikeout. 1-run game. White Sox have put 3 more batters on with just a 1-run lead, top of the 5th. Here's Bill Melton. 55, second X. Second baseman is Cookie Rojas, a 2-15. It's an error. Cookie could not make a play. And I got Ken Henderson. 69 pops the first. Lamar Johnson, 111. Oh, it's 6-4-3 double play. We don't have to worry about Lamar Johnson today because Bob Coluccio is in the outfield. Lamar is a DH, which is pretty much where he should be, so he'll probably play the whole game. 4-3 game. Turned out to be interesting here. Bottom of the 5th. Let's pause a moment for station identification.
This is the Shrimp Trawler video channel.
Este es el canal de videos de camaroneros.
All right, the White Sox. Boy, if they could get the sweep today, they go into a situation where they control their destiny. They can compete for the division and a wild card spot or a division title. And every game that they would lose in this series, they have to rely on help just because they've had such a difficult season to this point. The Royals are playing for pride, it would seem. Bottom of the 5th, it'll be the top of the Royal lineup. Cookie Rojas. 2-9, pops the 3rd. George Brett, 2-8, grounds the 1st. And Lou Piniella, 2-4, grounds the 3rd. 6th inning for Gura, his breaking inning. Buddy Bradford, 66, is a fly ball to center. Bob Coluccio, 37's a K. And Bucky Dent, 64, 3rd X, but Brett's a 1 this particular year. The only time of his career he'd be a 1. He makes the play. Thinking about the next inning, it's righty, 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 righty. That could be it for Gura. 4-3, bottom of the 6th. And now we have to start thinking if you're the White Sox of what do we do with Gossage? How many innings do we get? Do we go through an inning with a lefty once to get, Mayberry? Do you flush out the lefties like Duke Sims and Jim Dwyer with Terry Forster? And do you do it now or do you wait till the 7th? It is an interesting discussion to have. I think a lot of people would do it now in a clincher because you got the lefties are coming up 1st, 3rd, and 5th. I mean, how many opportunities do you think you're going to have in this game? Flush them out and then go for the goose. I like it. I think the White Sox are going to do it. So they're going to pull Bart Johnson after 5 decent innings, the 3-run homer notwithstanding, because they want to flush out their lefties with Forster, get them to pinch hit, and then have Gossage mow down the rest. So it will be Terry Forster in the 6th inning. Remember, he's a relief. Actually, Forster's a relief 3, Gossage is a relief 4. So they got plenty of juice in their arms. Plus, we have Wilbur Wood with that ability to pitch on 2 days rest. So Jim Cott would go tomorrow if there is a tomorrow, and then Wilbur Wood would go the day after that. So Terry Forster in 74, won 7 games, 3.63 ERA, and 134 innings. And he'll have to deal with the lefties, the few lefties that Kansas City has, beginning with John Mayberry. 45 is a walk. That's a mistake. Now you got to deal with Amos Otis. 39 is singled out, and the Royals have something going in the 6th inning. Runners on the corners for Duke Sims. The lefty, you saw the card. You know what? He ain't going anywhere. He's a hero at this point. He's going to stay in the game. And now the White Sox have to think about, do we really bring the infield up with nobody out in a 1-run affair? You got to count the ground ball Bs on the card, and there are many. We got a 4, and a 9, and a 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 points of GB. They're going to bring the infield up. 46 is a K. Now you got Fran Healy. They're going to play back for Healy because he has no ground ball Bs on his card. 2-9, let's take a look at Fran Healy's card of 1973. So he was a San Francisco Giant. Kansas City I don't even think they traded much to get him, really. He was just a fringe catcher. As it turns out, he has a 73 might be the best year of his career in a platoon. He's a .276 hitter with 6 homers and 300 plate appearances with a -1 arm. 2-9 against a lefty is homer 1-9, and it is gone. A 3-run bomb, and Forster gums the game up for the Chi Sox. It is now 6-4 Royals. And now Jim Dwyer, who doesn't have a hit on his card, doesn't matter. Go ahead, Forster. You already blew the lead. Dwyer grounds to short, and with 2 outs, it's Heidemann. 37's a walk. Back up top to Rojas. 5-11, first C. Well, the move completely backfires. Now there's a 2-run deficit as we go to the 7th. Gurr is going to leave. The White Sox had a lot of success against him. So Horacio Pena will come out of the Kansas City bullpen. He actually was an Oakland A in 1973 with 6 wins, a .276 ERA, and 88 innings. We call him a righty who gets righties out. The White Sox, very similar. They only have 4 lefties on their team. Each team would like to have more left-handed hitting. That's probably the weakest parts of each squad. So Horacio Pena in the 7th. Top of the lineup, Brian Downing. Or do you go to the switch hitter? They're going to do it. They're going to flip this all around. They're going to go to Bob Stinson, switch hitting catcher, as a pinch hitter, and he'll take over for Downing. Here's the pitch to Stinson. 67 is single 1-4 both ways, as it turns out, and it's a line out to short. Same exact percentage chance versus lefties and righties. Batting for Beckert, it's going to be George Orta. They have no qualms about this. The only lefty in the Kansas City bullpen is Bill Laxton, and he's pretty lousy. So they have no problem with bringing in these lefties. George Orta. 65, homer 1-16, and it's gone! George Orta off of Pena. We got a one-run game. I got Dick Allen. 52, flies to right, and with 2 outs, it's Bill Melton. 68, second X. Your second baseman, Rojas. A 2E15 makes the play. 6-5 affair. Bottom of the 7th inning. It's stretch time here. We are enjoying Fred Neal's 1966 debut LP with Dolphins. That's the bag I'm in. Everybody's Talking, the big song from Midnight Cowboy that Harry Nilsson made famous. Great LP with a dulcet tones of Fred Neal. Wonderful stuff. Back to the game. Terry Forster. Well, you got Brett. May as well leave him in there to see if he can actually get some work done. George Brett against Forster. 46 is a K. Lou Piniella. 68, single 1 to 10, gets it. Mayberry, 1-8 is a walk, and now it's getting ugly here. I think you hook him because we know Duke Sims does not leave games versus lefties, and Amos Otis crushes them. So Forrester will take his big old kerosene back into the dugout. And the White Sox, well, they would have liked to go to Gossage. They're going to have to go to Mike Garman now. Down a run in the 7th. With runners at first and second, Mike Garman, a nice free agent acquisition from the Cardinals. 7-2 with a 2.63 ERA in 82 innings. Mike Garman will face Amos Otis. Much better against lefties and righties. Here's the pitch to Amos Otis. 56 is a fly ball to center, and with 2 outs, it's Duke Sims. 53 flies to right X. Buddy Bradford in right field is a 2-3. Makes the grab. Okay. Getting late in this one. 6-5 game, Horatio Pena. He's got a switch hitter and then a bunch of righties at the bottom. He will continue. It's Ken Henderson. 69 draws a walk. B. Steeler, this is the player here. You want to move, keep him on the bases of the 15 runner. Don't want to double him off. You got Lamar Johnson. Can't hit and run, bunt, or do that sort of thing. Let's take a look at his card. Lamar Johnson, we call him a one-trick pony. Can't field, can't steal, can't run, can't hit and run, can't bunt. Boy, can he hit, folks. He's a .320 hitter and 220 at-bats. Needs to stay out of the double play. You got a -1 on Fran Healy. Don't want to run out of this inning, so Lamar Johnson will swing away. 2-8 is a strikeout. Now you got Buddy Bradford. 34 is a 6-4-3 double play. That's your inning. All right, 6-5, bottom of the 8th. It'll be Fran Healy for the Royals. 32, fouls out. Jim Dwyer, 111, grounds a short. And with 2 outs, Jack Heidemann, 34. He pops to third. He'll leave the game for defense. Fred Potek will take over. Al Cowens will go into the outfield, taking over for Dwyer. We'll go to the 9th inning of a 6-5 game. Horatio Pena did his work. Do they dare go to Laxton now with the lefties coming up? Well, you got Coluccio and Dent who still can't hit righties, so they're just going to go Doug Bird in the 9th. Doug Bird is indeed the Kansas City closer. In 1973, he's probably better suited to be a setup guy. 4-4 with a 2.99 ERA in 102 innings. He's asking to preserve a 1-run lead and get a save and keep Kansas City season on life support. And for the White Sox, there'll be a pinch hitter for Coluccio. It'll be Tony Muser. Funny thing about that, Tony Muser likes to play the outfield better than Lamar Johnson, even though Tony Muser's a first baseman, so that's where he will go if there is a bottom of the 9th. Tony Muser, the left-handed batter, last guy on the bench for the White Sox, will swing away. 52, flies to center. Now you got Bucky Dent. 1-7's a pop to third, and with 2 outs, it's Bob Stinson, the switch hitting catcher. He's had some big hits for this team. Let's take a look at this card. Bob Stinson was a Montreal Expo in 1973, hit .261, switch hitter, power both ways, a lot of walks on base. Didn't have much of a future in Montreal because of Gary Carter emerging. And so the White Sox pounced on him to platoon with Brian Downing. Here's the pitch to Bob Stinson. 5-10 is catcher's X. This should end the game. Fran Healy, a 3-9. And it's a foul out to end the game in Kansas City. That's a tough blow. They've just handed the White Sox. They played for pride. They beat the White Sox 6-5 in Game 4. So, Larry Gurr does get the win as he left with a lead. Doug Bird gets a save, and Terry Forster blows the game in the 6th inning, giving up 2 of the 3 lefties he faced reach base and cost the team the game. So 5/3 for Garmin. And that's it for game number 4. We'll have a game 5 in Kansas City. It'll be Paul Splittorff versus Jim Cott. Game 6, Marty Patton versus Wilbur Wood. And if there's a game 7, Dennis Leonard versus Jerry Bell. So stick around. We'll give you the rest of the series. All right, folks, here's the box score of the game you just saw. The Royals comeback win 6-5. A game that Terry Forster almost crushed the White Sox season. He come in the 6th inning and gave up a 3-run homer. Only asked him to go get 3 outs. He couldn't do it. And a winnable 4-0, 4-3 game turned into a 6-5 defeat. Would it ruin the White Sox season? Well, they're going to need Game 5, Jim Cott. Can he make the trade that got him to Chicago worthwhile? He's going to have to win Game 5 for that to be a reality. So let's take a look at what happens in Game 5. Game 5, Paul Splittorff, who struggled all year for Kansas City, and Jim Cott. First inning, Glenn Beckert singles. Dick Allen showing off that 1972 MVP medal he had with a 2-run blast. In the 3rd inning, Bill Melton, RBI ground out. It's 3-0 White Sox, and it seems very familiar to Game 4. 6th inning, Bradford singles. It's a Coluccio double, a Dent sac fly, RBI single, Brian Downing, 5-zip. Meanwhile, it is Jim Cott turning in the best performance of the year. This is the game the White Sox needed out of him to justify the trade, getting him off the Twins. Might want to add the one weakness the Twins now have is a lack of good left-handed pitching. Will that come up and haunt them later on in this season? We'll find out. But Jim Cott sails through 8 innings in a batter. As soon as the guy reached, they said, "Gimme Gossage." 6-run lead. You just got to get Gossage in there to end the thing. Put the Royals down. Get the gentleman's sweep. Easily dispatching the Royals 6-0. Probably could have been a 4-game sweep. The White Sox will gladly take 4 games to 1. They are still on task. And when we look at the big picture, you'll see that we're right where we were at the beginning of the video, where the White Sox, they have had a tough year dealing with a tough schedule. They lost 3 out of 4 to Baltimore. They beat a bad Las Vegas team interleague. They lost 3 out of 4 to the Tigers. They beat a game Milwaukee squad. They lost a tough 7-gamer to the Twins, and they just waxed the Royals. All that means they're a game over 500. If this was the National League, they'd be in trouble because of the Reds and Pirates and Phillies and Dodgers. And America League, different story. Anybody could emerge from the wide open America League. I totally expect a number 5 or number 6 wild card team to make a run in this thing. And the White Sox have destiny in their own hands. They just simply have to keep playing great baseball like they just did against, on paper, a talented Kansas City team, and just execute good starting pitching, good relief pitching, defense, timely hitting. Their one lapse was when Terry Forster could not execute a single inning of relief and cost them a game. They can't afford any more of that nonsense. But the White Sox are in pretty darn good shape, all things considered. Let's look at some stats here for the squads. We'll start with Kansas City, who will probably see their season end in the postseason tournament. I can't imagine them emerging out of last place and making a run. They have too much work to do. 9-17, they're closer to getting the first overall pick in the draft, which is stunning to think. Doug Bird is 6 saves out of the bullpen. He could be the all-star. We normally see that. Lousy teams, the closer hardly pitches, usually pitches with a comfortable lead the few times they get it. And no positional player or starting pitcher would obviously be good enough to go to an all-star game. That's the case of Kansas City. If you're wondering, George Brett's sitting about 260. John Mayberry, 260. Amos Otis, about 240. They're hitting 231 as a club with a 378 ERA. Paul Splittorff is 1-7 in 51 innings. That's horrible. He is just getting lit up terribly this year. Now the White Sox. So, they've scored 120 runs this year, giving up 112. They're 15-14, hitting 260, 379 ERA. Yeah, that average should be a little bit better. ERA should be a little bit lower. But again, great competition. Wilbur Wood has a staggering 11 decisions in 29 games, pitching on 2 days rest. 7-4. Yet he has no complete games. That's because he's not a starter 9 anymore. He's a starter 8. And because we pitched him on 2 days rest, we tend to get him out as soon as we can, just to not to kill the guy's arm. Gossage has 6 saves, but Terry Forster and Gossage have combined for 4 losses. Their record would be 14-10 if you take away the decisions of Forster and Gossage. That's something to work on. Gossage's ERA is around 3. Forster's ERA was actually reasonable until that loss. The bats, Dick Allen has 5 homers and 19 RBIs. And Lamar Johnson, as bad as his defense is, the bat is worth it. He leads the club with 34 hits and 107 at-bats. No, it's not. He's not going to the All-Star game with that, but he's not getting a lot of production otherwise either, and he can't field. But, the White Sox are in pretty good shape. And we'll have to wait and see what happens with Brewers Twins to see when we look at the standings again in the postseason tournament. Right now, the White Sox, if they get into second place, if the Brewers fail against the Twins, the White Sox would get their revenge match against the Twins at a rematch in the postseason tournament. White Sox would have home field. So that's something to consider in their quest to win this division. That's it today. Break up the White Sox. They get a gentleman's sweep, beating the Royals 4-1. Thanks for checking this out, and we'll see you next time.